Just want to make a quick video. Oh, just make this as quick as I can. Because I'm absolutely just wiped out. I've spent endless hours crying. Really, so that the pain really hitting home and making me realise that there's just this is never going to end. This abuse. So I need, when a person needs help and no one will help that person to escape. Unless you are a female who is being abused, who is a victim of controlling behaviour, that is abuse. Neglect and controlling behaviour, that's manipulation of all your emotions, calling it stress. One thing I learnt after my mother died in 2009 is that the abuser is not losing control, he is taking control. And using that through any means, violence, manipulation, calling it stress, when actually it really is just abuse and neglect. And using the flying monkeys. Anyway, yes, I've seen videos made by the man who coined the phrase flying monkeys. And I'm making this video mainly because I met if I look disgusting, it's because I haven't been able to look after my person. So but I want to start by saying this video is about, I met Marian's friend yesterday, and a neighbour of, I'm going to be very, 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 very careful how I say this, because I obviously want to protect everyone that I am talking about, even those who are making me suicidal. So that would include, ironically, my partner, his friends, and of course, this lady on YouTube, this elderly lady, this amazing lady that I want to meet, called Marian, who is the victim of an illegal eviction scam in Bexhill, who exposed Mr. Holden, a solicitor, who abused me in the hotels earlier this year, and he was also Marian's solicitor, and she said he had 16 pages of corruption against him, including sexual harassment, and this involves the local MP caseworker Ewan Morrison, who has never got back to me, for months and months of homelessness and the rest of it. And basically, but I also want to talk about my partner's friends, Christian friends, Eben and Gurmit. I'll start by talking about them because they are the ones who've really, really triggered this realization that there is just so much evil and abuse by people who, well, I mean, I'm saying what we already know. But I was crying all the way to Bexhill. I've also found an article that's kind of amusing. It's not nice, but it's amusing in the sense that an Argus article about, if I can I'll just see if I can bring it up. Um, an article from 2013, and the headline was "Man accused of flinging fish guts round office of top Sussex solicitor." And I will read that out. I'll come back to that. Um, I shouldn't laugh, but I did laugh reading it. Obviously, it's a horrible thing to do, but Mr. Holden obviously doesn't care because he's continued to be abusive of men. Now, obviously, I'm not excusing the crimes of this person who did what they did, but I'm assuming that they were mistreated by Mr. Holden. And I've also been waiting for more appalling online reviews of Mr. Holden, and guess what? Yes, a couple more have been added. One was from a month ago, and one was from 3 or 4 days ago. So I was expecting there to be more appalling reviews because he clearly does not care. I wish I'd recorded it. I wish I had filmed and recorded him shouting or yelling, saying, "I don't care if the Prime Minister is phoning me," and hanging up and telling me to go away. Because this lady, I spent such a long time. Well, I spent a good few hours, about 5 hours, talking to this lady, this neighbour and friend of Marian's. And I'm gonna be very careful because obviously I'm not gonna say who she is or whatever. But I have to. She invited me in. She felt safe with me coming into her home, which I thought was very trusting, shall we say? Because I said, "Are you sure in this day and age you can't trust anyone?" I mean, I'm not safe with anyone. You can't trust women. Um, you can't trust elderly people either. You can't trust anyone. But she was very friendly. But the thing is, she fell out with Marion, and the thing that disappointed me or shocked me was when she said that Marion does not have a legal background. But the journalists who made that YouTube video, they put in the description that she was a retired forensic lawyer. But the lady this friend, acquaintance, neighbour of Marian's, I know that Marian is a targeted individual, so there may have been a reason why she didn't want this lady that I spoke to yesterday to know about the journalists that were right outside filming, because they had a big fallout. And I won't go into it because it would be inappropriate. I've never met Marion, but I still want to meet her to make my own decisions. I'm aware that she's a targeted individual like me, heavily targeted. She seems very intelligent. I find it hard to believe what this nice lady that I spoke to, I find it hard to believe that she just worked for John Lewis. She's too intelligent, and she's gone into the backgrounds of a lot of people. The journalists wouldn't have given her the time of day if she was just a funny old lady. But this is what I mean it because it happened to John Alexander Patterson, who was part of the Royal Commission, and I met him in the psychiatric unit, and I saw his tears, I saw his pain. I made up my own decision that this man is legitimate. I followed what all these people, because it's a very, very small world. in the truthers community, as it were. It's all connected up. The trolls, the the genuine hardcore whistleblowers. It's a the world is a very small place now. I mean, crumbs, if someone thousands of miles away across the pond can be in contact with someone that's your friend and also they're a Facebook friend of yours, but neither of you have met that person. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? It really is crazy. Um, so, of course, people like Ray Savage, who dated the mother of children I played with, and he was a speaker at the conference, and he said the 77 Brigade are out to get us. My nephew was found in the harbour with concrete tied to his legs, and he met the victim of the satanic ritual abuse case, and he was exposing Freemasonry and all that stuff. So, you know, but what I just find bizarre is that, I'm just an amateur YouTuber. I've got under 1,000 people who watch my videos, under 1,000 subscribers, and yet so much has been done to me. There just aren't enough hours in a day to tell someone about everything that's happened to me. I still haven't told this lady about everything that's happened to me, even in the space of just a few days, even. I told her about that manager at the hotel in the hotel which whose name I won't mention, the Muslim manager. And but I didn't tell her that there was a hotel guest here being, that PC Ian Williams was investigating that hotel guest for sexual harassment. I didn't tell her that because, as I said, there aren't enough hours in a day. 5 hours flew by. I had a cup of tea with this woman and I was listening to her, but there was too much to say. But I mean, I listened to her, but there's so much. She doesn't know that I'm in a suicidal state. She doesn't even know what triggered it. She doesn't even know why it was that I was bawling my eyes out all the way on the bus to Bexhill in Weatherspoons and all the way back here again. So she doesn't know that. Um, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, she's Australian, and I'm going to be very careful what I say because you never know. Someone from Bexhill might watch this, but if they do, they do. So what? You know. But I told her about um, the New Zealand GP that came here straight from. He came straight from, was it San Francisco in America? Came straight to Eastbourne, um, just on a plane. He came to Eastbourne for airborne, and then he witnessed what happened. But me standing up to that Muslim manager bully who said he wasn't a manager, who said he'd write a letter of apology to me back in January, and then goes on to write a letter saying I disturbed people with my tears. Yeah, right. And these tears were because my disturbing other people was my distress, my yell, because of Mr. Holden, the solicitor, 3 times in the space of, was it 3 times in the space of 3 months he hung up on me? Or was it no, I think it all happened in January while I was at the Pier Hotel. There you go, I've said it, the Pier Hotel. Because that manager said he wasn't a manager, told me to tear up his card, and then he signed himself off as the manager. Very dodgy. I did think it was bizarre that he wanted to give me a copy of the Quran because it's not something that you'd expect a hotel manager to do. I mean, maybe maybe the owner of a B&B might, but usually you get the Gideon's Bible in an English hotel, but and this lady, this friend of Marian's, she was like quite shocked that I broke some taboos with this Pakistani Muslim guy because we were talking about the Pakistani grooming gangs and Tommy Robinson. But I think the thing that concerned her was the fact that whilst I invited him into my room, and I made it very clear that I did not let him into my room whilst wearing a towel, I referred to a comment he made to me when I opened the door with a towel around me. It's like the man in the hotel guest here, whom I opened the door to wearing a towel, he forced his way in. There's a difference. And he was touching me and stuff. Whereas this manager made a comment. That's why I wanted to emphasize that he was a little inappropriate. Because when I invited him into my room, well, I didn't invite him in. He knocked on my door to check on me, came in. I can't remember how, but I just, you know how it is when you're extremely vulnerable and your partner's neglected you and you're scared and homeless. And I told this lady, I said he offered a room for me at a special rate as a long-term guest, which she thought was dodgy. But this is what I mean when the council are not helping you, and he knew this because he even offered to contact my local MP. What happened to that? It's just lies, 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 lies. And it's very frightening when you're extremely vulnerable. But she thought it was odd that he sat on my bed and that it was inappropriate. And I said, well, yes. But I said, this is part of my vulnerability. The thing I didn't like was the fact that he pulled my bed cover back, thumped up my pillow and said, lie down. Just lie down. I think he even touched my feet. I didn't like that. And I said, no, it's okay. I'll sit on top of the bed. I'm not going to get into bed. I'm not going to get into bed when a man, I don't care who he is, he could be the prime minister. He's a hotel manager. He's a man. And it was a woman on Facebook who said to me he's committed haram because Muslim men are not supposed to be alone with women in their culture. He even admitted he knew that he'd done something really bad, and this was a young man. And as I said to Peter, the GP from New Zealand, as I was saying to this lady, this Australian friend of Marian's, I said, I was wearing my pajamas, but he put his finger on my knee and said, do you mind me doing that? And I said, no, I don't like that. Thanks. I felt very uncomfortable, but I was also needing, I don't know, someone to talk to about I need help. But he knew that I was homeless. He knew I had a landlady in contempt of court, and I had a load of stuff to move out of the hotel room, which he didn't like. He complained about, and I said at the time back in January, I said, look, I just wanted to say that I didn't appreciate what you said. So, of course, he went back on that. He got his room assistant to say to me that no, that didn't happen. And Marion's friend was like, yes, I know, accusing me of being a liar and then saying, oh, I wasn't there. Well, make up your mind. Um, anyway, and the Peter, the GP from New Zealand, who I went for a meal with and everything, he was friendly, but I disagreed with this lady because she said, I said he spoilt it all when he said at the end of it all, I'd invite you in for a cup of tea, but I'd want to kiss and cuddle you. Knowing that I'm homeless, knowing that I'm in pain, knowing that I've got a partner, I'm extremely vulnerable, that I'm hurting over my partner. Now it's my partner who agrees with me. He's on my side about this, that a GP shouldn't be behaving like that because he's got to be professional in his everyday life to some degree. And this lady disagreed with me. She said, no, he's on holiday. He can do whatever he wants. Well, no, I think I said to some degree they do have to, though. It's like a school teacher. A school teacher has to, in their personal lives, in their private lives, to some degree, they have to have a level of conduct. But having said that, this is what I need to tell this current solicitor. I need to tell this current solicitor about, in fact, I'm going to write that down, about this school teacher tenant that called Darren ACUNT and PC Howard May, who sexually assaulted me later. He took evidence of her assault. So there's a lot of funny stuff going on. Now I am extremely ill. I've got to mention the doctor's surgery as well. Um, but anyway, yeah, no. So this friend of Marion's, it was you know interesting to hear what she said. Um, she said, oh dear, I've got to be so careful what I say. I'm going to be very careful what I say. The word that you would use to say what has happened to someone, I can't use it. I don't feel comfortable to use that word. So I'm just going to say that from what Marion's friend said to me, she's in hospital. And that is not surprising because of what she's been put through, the stress. She articulated how if she wasn't strong enough, it would have pushed her to suicide. So I can understand if she wouldn't want to meet someone she doesn't know. I would still like to meet her, but obviously if she's elderly and she's ended up in hospital because of this gang stalking and this illegal eviction scam. Now, what I found interesting is there's someone in the comments, and I'm assuming they might be a local person. I put a comment under the video saying I'd still like to meet her. I've had a lot happen to me. Mr. Holden was my solicitor, blah blah blah. And a lady replied to my comment under that video saying you're not able to contact her. Um, um, and I saw under a thread of comments that same person made a comment about Marian at the time, saying that that house, which is now all boarded up, in the YouTube video, it's not boarded up, but they've now completely boarded it up, so that you can't put anything through the letterbox. So this note that I have for Marion, I can't get it to her. But apparently, according to the person in the comments, her grandson uh, lived in the property, I think, and Marion was actually the landlady. She didn't live there, she was the landlady. And this person was saying in the comments how those poor tenants, because obviously they've now had to be evicted, they will have ended up homeless. And Marion, and then they're saying that it was a mortgage loan scam, and Marion didn't look after the property. It was in a bad condition for the tenants, and she's actually got a house round the corner, but she's not in a good way mentally, which she admitted to on YouTube. But as I said, I would like to meet this lady for myself, regardless of, so that I can make up my own, mind about someone. Because something I've learnt in my old age, as a spinster, as this demented, evil landlady said about me, the one who wanted to help me write a book, who should be in prison for what she's done to me, and she's still got my valuables. Uh, the one who's in contempt of court and friends with property managers who protected criminals who were attacking me, as you can see on my YouTube video from a few years ago. But anyway, getting back to this lady Marion, as I said, I've got to be very, very careful because I don't want to sound familiar. I I've got to be careful that I protect, because I'm extremely vulnerable. I've put myself in danger unwittingly, put possibly my partner, my sister, anyone connected to me. So I can relate to Marion just watching her on YouTube. It's like watching my mother, my late mother, who would be 87 if she was alive. Do you know what I mean? So, because that woman is so intelligent, she knows her stuff, and she's a targeted individual. Anyone who has anything to do with her, bad things happen to them. That's what's been happening to me. Not that not that I know anyone who's had anything bad happen to them by having communications with me, but I'm the one who has suffered. I mean, maybe it has had an effect on others, but that's the work of the enemy, right? So I also want to say something about the Feast of Trumpets, because there's been a lot of a hoo-ha about the Feast of Trumpets next month being the rapture of, and the Hebrew word being harpazo, and predictive programming, because I've just found out about that as well. And just to be wary, but the dates, the numerical, the numbers in the scripture, this is the only time up until now that there are 2,550 days, is it? Uh, between for the 7 year tribulation, is that correct? Because they're saying that 2032 is when our Saviour would come back. But anyway, I'm not very good at, you know, my brain can only, it's not, my brain is not good at taking information. Um, I have to be so wary. We all have to be wary of each other. So this is what I've had to learn about people in general, because obviously I saw a nasty side to a lot of people. And yes, it's because of stress. And I agree with this, with Marion's friend, that, like I said, I'm not going to use her name. I agree with Marion's friend that there's good and evil in all of us. We're all sinners, and stress can make us, can do things to us. Which is why, I don't discount, despite how I feel about Darren and how my partner, how much I'm hurting. I did agree with that email he sent me. He said this will help you, Bryony, saying that people who have wronged us will be put in our lives, and that was on a Facebook group to do with Yahweh, and absolutely. Now I want to say something about Marion's friend. She got to be very careful what I say. What did she used to be an osteopath. She's I knew from the moment I walked in the door that she had a problem like me, a clutter problem. But I won't sort of be personal about it. But I noticed she had a skeleton and loads of stuff to do with the body. But she also lost a civil partner, and took his stuff as well. So uh, it's nowhere near as bad as, even though she's living in a house, it's nowhere near as bad as what my problem was, and the OCD and bereavement. But um, uh, she has recently studied, what is it? What's it called? Qigong. It's something to do with meditation. Qigong. I don't know. Um, so when people talk about their pagan, it is still pagan, but I'm very careful when I listen to people. I've gone into this person's house, and I'm going to be very careful with how I word things, that I'm not rude. Well, I could never be rude. She kept telling me to stop saying sorry, and oh, it must be awful to be like you. I said, yes, I know it is awful. I do say sorry all the time. I felt more self-conscious about going in to her house with hair as greasy as an oil pan. But then I'm very, very, very ill right now, very more ill than I could. She knows that my body. She knows straight away that my body is. She knows. I told her about the losing blood and the anemia. Well, she used to be an osteopath. She does the natural medicine, so she knows. She knows all about all this stuff. So, um, but this pagan meditation thing, I have. I could never say this to her face. But when she said to me, when I was talking to her, she stopped me at one point and she said, I mean, I did come up for air. I listened to her talk for some time as well. But at one point she said, I need to say, you're going round in circles. And I thought, I wasn't offended. I just said, if I had a penny for the number of times I've heard that phrase, the 101 police call handlers, they use that phrase. Well, they are demented, but they are so brainwashed. They've, I feel that the police 101 call handlers, they are mentally ill themselves. You pick up the phone and they leave you feeling how Gurmit left me feeling. I thought I needed to ring for an ambulance. That is how Gurmit left me feeling. Now I already know what these people are like. well, not obviously not Marion's friend because I'd never met her before, and I barely know Gurmit, but this woman had a conversation with herself from the moment I met her. She was in her own bubble, but she really was like, these when someone talks as if they know you. I mean, this is, without wanting to be rude, that's something that autistic people do, severely autistic people. So Darren's friend Gurmit is talking to herself. I mean, from the moment I hadn't, even 9 years ago when I met her, I didn't know her, but I'm jumping here. I'm sort of going from one thing to the other. She does it. She's like Helen Hipperson. She didn't come up for air. Helen Hipperson thought she knew all about me. Which is rude, to get information about someone through your estranged eldest sister, and then saying your sisters are CUNTs. Well, that was Helen, not Gurmit. But Gurmit, 9 years ago, she was attacking me, attacking Darren to my face. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa! I don't know you. And listening is a skill. So I don't need her to say to me that I could help other people in the same way that this landlady, who's 86, who should be in prison, she's got my valuables, is telling me I could help others. She wants to help me write a book, and I'm like, you've never met me before. And I'm thinking, these people are mad. And it's because of word of mouth or gossip or whatever. She knows about my YouTube channel. But the fact that Gurmit said, I've heard you're recording me. I said, why are you saying that? I just wanted to hear what made her say that. Because I heard the clicking sound on your laptop. Right, okay, Gurmit. So you're that paranoid. She obviously knows that what the sound of a recording sound on a laptop is, right? But why would you be so paranoid in the first instance that someone is doing that? I mean, have you got the phone so close to your ear that you're just listening out for it? Or as Darren told you that, oh, she's got a YouTube channel and she might record you. I mean, if you know that, right, let's stick to the point of why I was phoning in the first place. Because Gurmit is Darren's friend. She's also friends with Eben. Eben had my things. Darren assaulted me in Eben's flat. DC Kamar released Darren from the police cells to come back to me in Eben's flat. I don't think he came back to the flat. Eben then came back from Nigeria to find me there, and I explained what had happened. But she was already like, like pretending she didn't know that I was there when she did know I was there. She knew I was there. She knew that I had been in her flat for 3 months. She knew that. So Darren didn't come back. Darren had assaulted me in his friend's flat, Eben's flat, over a set of keys. The police knew about this. That bald-headed thug, PSYCHATRIC, had banged on Eben's door. He was the same thug who beat me in A&E all night long, who committed Section 134 of the Criminal Justice Act. Eben is supposed to be a Christian and a solicitor. I don't care what she's a solicitor for. She's meant to be a Christian. Juliet was a support worker, and she's apparently since died of cancer. She was going through cancer treatment when she spoke to when she spoke to Eben on my behalf about my possessions. The support work, the care coordinator who got me into the supported flat at SDR Living. I then get news my father has died. I'm then locked out of that flat. 4 months later, on news my father has died. The care coordinator is then sacked. Juliet, who had already written a letter, an email which I have a copy of, to Caroline Ansell, the former MP for Eastbourne, saying that she witnessed me being attacked, which I've got criminal evidence of on this YouTube channel. The local MP, Josh, is ignoring it. Darren's other friend, who has texted me to say I'm a stupid idiot for a second time, he sent a letter to the House of Commons about me and my disability to Josh, the current MP. Do you see what I mean? These people, all of Darren's friends are Christians, including Steve Churchill at the food bank. He had things of mine, which he didn't give to me. This is abuse of a vulnerable adult. Oh, why don't you get a job? Oh, this, oh, that. Do you know something? I'm glad I recorded you, Gurmit. Because I've caught you out for lying. You've lied to me. You said you didn't know about my things being in Eben's flat, and then you said, oh, your things were on the landing. Well, Eben lied. Because I went, after 3 months of being in Eben's flat, I then go into the supported flat at SDR Living. I mean, it's like it's a script that has been written because you couldn't make it up. It's like having paid actors, narcissists, and they're all going to do bad things, and some of them are going to go to prison, some of them are just going to be covered up. You know, this is where Freemasonry, acting, and real life and the enemy, it all merges together, because that's what you get. Call a spade a spade. It's all part of the same BS. You know, you couldn't make it up if you tried. Andy Canfield, the Lansdowne hotel manager, intervened when I was locked out of that flat. He contacted head of police. And the managing director and the police were in on it. And he's in prison for 7 years because my eldest sister's friend Louise allegedly was on the local news. Well, I've seen the clip of this Louise, but I didn't know she was friends with my eldest sister. I didn't know that Andy Canfield had stayed in my eldest sister's house, because she's a landlady, and that he had defrauded a lot of people, and he's then serving a prison sentence for 7 years, pretending to go, oh, there, Bryony, I'm here to help you. I'll contact head of police. They're all in on it, and he's in prison. All these people have just been cancers. Juliet then dies of cancer. But you can hear, I don't know if you can hear in the end of that 2-hour video, that phone call to Gurmit. It then takes guts for me to ring Eben. Eben's like, oh dear, how terrible that Juliet has died. God bless her, rest her soul. Yeah. I mean, I really shouldn't say this, but Darren picked up a book in her flat, and it was a book written by what's that false teacher called? The super rich one. What's her name? In the club with Joel Osteen, doing that Egyptian. I mean, even Marion's friend is into, I think she's into some dodgy stuff, because she said something about Nubis, the Egyptian god, all this idolatry. I told her about the green man and how it's used for satanic ritual abuse, to rape and murder boys. And Darren quite rightly helped me get out of all that stuff. And he brought me to the name of Yahweh, the name that was removed nearly 7,000 times from scripture. How I've come out of all of that, and how my transgender sister is into divination, familiar spirits. That's what you're contacting when you contact your late mother. You're contacting demons. I mean, my transgender sister Bronya, she actually saw me when I wasn't there, when I was a little girl, emulating me, doing what I always did, drawing. And they didn't tell me till I was an adult because that would have just freaked me out. She and her friends saw me when I wasn't there. Doppelganger. It's not a doppelganger. It's the enemy playing games with your mind. It's taking on demons, taking on forms, apparitions. Ghosts don't exist. It's the spirit realm. That's what the enemy does. But anyway, so in the same way that heaven and hell are not fluffy clouds and fiery furnaces, no, heaven is a place on earth. Hell just means eternal separation from your heavenly Father. Anyway, so for anyone who doesn't know. But anyway, I've gone off on one there, but like I said, there's method in the madness, so to speak. I don't like to use those words, mad. But in the sense that making a video, recording a conversation with Darren's friend, it served a purpose because they've proved to me how deceitful they are. Evan knew that I had my things in her flat. I left a bouquet of flowers as a thank you for her, and she never thanked me or commented on the fact that I had got her washing machine working. I cleaned it out. It had a lot of mold in the drawer, and I cleaned it out. I emptied the filter, which meant having to flood the floor. She doesn't know this. Cleaned it all up and got it working again. Her washing machine was not working, and I fixed it. I left thank you flowers. I mopped the floors in the bathroom, and well, it was mortifying staying in a stranger's home without them knowing, and then Darren assaulting me over a set of keys. So they knew that Darren had emotionally abused me. But of course, they're going to listen to Darren because they've known Darren longer than they've known me. But they want to think that they know me. You see? To survive all of this completely on my own with no friends and no family, to be threatened with prison if I leave a card and flowers for my transgender disabled sister. It was my partner who suggested I do that. Darren suggested I do that. And then he's swearing about my sister, my transgender sister, saying it's her fault, it's her fault. What? Stop pointing the finger here. I'm the victim here. I'm the one showing love to all of you. I'm doing all these kind things. I pay for the meals. I've bought some gifts for you. I never got a happy birthday. I'm running around like a blue-ass fly. I've had to find another solicitor because of Mr. Holden. I'm doing all of this completely on my own. I am bloody amazing. And all you have done, Eben, Gurmit, lie to me. I don't know about your things. There were yeah. Well, I knew about. I don't know anything about it. Oh, but your things were on the landing and they got removed. Eben had said, "It's fine. You go into a hotel." I went into a hotel. I was waiting for this care coordinator to get me into a bloody flat. Don't forget it was only for 4 months. She thought she'd done a wonderful thing, and then she was sacked. The night porter was sacked after quarter of a century of turning up drunk. 10 years ago, there's a Facebook page called Survivors of the Saffron, and a petition to the Trussell Trust food bank in Eastbourne. about the bullying that went on at the Linwood Saffron. I was then there a year later. The the petition didn't have enough people, it was ignored. So it had to take up until 2023 for that Scottish Basil Fawlty to finally be sacked. Shouting at me, I don't care. No, what did he say? Uh, you've seen a mental health nurse. I mean, even Juliet, when she saw the YouTube video that I showed her where I was locked in reception, they locked me in reception and wouldn't let me out, and I felt scared. These people were meant to be trained to deal with complex needs, these lunatics. I did paid care work over 20 years ago. I tell you what, I've never known so much mental illness, and that's just from the counsellors, the police, the people that run the town. I mean, seriously, they don't know their pardon the language, but they don't know their asses from their elbows. She put the CFO on notice under common law. None of them, they all failed to stop and correct. They just did not care. I could have got a 5-year-old to, to to do things that I was asking for help with. So it's just and the reason why I'm a spinster is because there are no men. I've seen what the men do. Oh, oh, the Islamists. We're scared of them. We're scared of them. Oh, you're standing up for our freedoms. You've got an opinion. We've got to arrest you. You're a far right thug. Quick, get all the parents and grandparents. Let's take the children and babies as well. Let's shove them all in prison because they love their country. So let's put them down as far right thugs. Innocent little children and babies and let's release all the rapists and the paedophiles onto the streets and let's just put you innocent, you know. That's what's going on. I mean, and so this landlady that's called me a libel, written a libelous statement saying that that I work for Southdown Housing Association, which I don't. My transgender sister did. Juliet did, and she's died of cancer. I know, like I said, let's get back to the point here. So we've established why I'm a spinster and why as a 43-year-old at the age of 8, I knew the world was going to be like this. This is why I didn't bring a child into the world. I guess I should have known that I wouldn't be living in a world where men are men. Where are the men? They're wearing dresses and calling themselves women and going to women's spaces, whatever. And on that note, Kelly J. Keane, ugh, like I said, what a disappointment. I was bullied by those women, and yet I've got so much. I've still got respect for what she does, but I haven't got respect for her bullying. She's behaved like a cultist, like a cult leader. But I've still got respect for what she does. I mean, the bravery. She blatantly went up to a group of women who were wearing not hijabs, those things that completely cover your faces. Well, they were covered up in some way. It was a hot summer's day, and there was one man with a group, one man with a group of them, as if he had multiple wives. I don't know, but she she was filmed. She went up to them and said, I think you have the right not to cover up your faces. Your husband, this gentleman you're with, he's not wearing anything. You shouldn't have to either. I've got so much respect for that and her bravery. But why did she not want me to speak as one of the other women? Thankfully, there was a normal woman there at Let Women Speak who said to me back in May, she said, "Well, why didn't you speak? You've got," because I had bruises on me caused by the police of what they had just done to me, and now they've dropped the case with false allegations and all this nonsense over a civil matter because I refused to call my sister a man. And this was after the High Court, because they were trying to force me into a voluntary interview, these psychopaths that work for the tyranny that's going on in this country. It's very frightening what's going on. Oh, by the way, did you know that if if the government say that you need to take your flag down, the flag of your country, it means that you are under occupation. So we are under occupation. We are under occupation. We've been invaded. England has been invaded. Right? England has been invaded. We are heading towards a civil war and or a major revolution because we are fighting for our rights. Because of everything that's going on, I'm watching it unfold. I had a great awakening 10 years ago, but whilst people were brainwashed by COVID and all of that, I was fighting for my life. The real pandemic, well, like as Darren said, don't use the word pandemic because the word pan is to do, don't say Peter Pan either, because the word pan, it's a satanic pagan word for, like, you've heard of the word pansexual. Pan, it's a pagan word, its origins, look it up. But if you want to, the real I can't find another word for pandemic, but it is narcissism. It is the biggest disease um, in our current times. But the covert narcissism is being brainwashed into people, and this is what I want to say about Marion. I want to say not Marion, sorry, her friend. I want to be very, 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 very careful with how I say this because I don't want anyone to be offended. But I have to say it because it's the truth. And it's part of the programming. So there are a couple of things I want to cover. I want to talk about the predictive programming to do with this Feast of Trumpets rapture thing next month. And the predictive programming because I forgot all about that. The 23rd, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th of September have been used in Hollywood movies, TV, and even One Foot in the Grave, which that one went over my head, of course, because I know One Foot in the Grave off by heart. It's one of my favourite comedies. I even spoke to Doreen Mantle, the late Doreen Mantle, who played Mrs. Warboys, on the Tube back in 2007, I think it was. I was with my sister, and I said, "Oh, I've made a fool of myself, haven't I?" And she said, "No, I think it's lovely what you've just done." And it took guts for me to actually go up to her. But yeah, so that was Mrs. Warboys, Doreen Mantle, and I said to her, "Were you in One Foot in the Grave?" Yes. I said, "I thought you were hilarious," and I thought, "Oh gosh, I must sound awful." How do you compliment someone without sounding stupid? How do you approach someone without sounding really, you don't want to sound like everybody else. But anyway, I want to talk about the predictive programming of the 23rd of September, which was mentioned in a scene in One Foot in the Grave. So the elites like to do things. The enemy, So, like I said, I'm not going to be bothered if we're not raptured next month, whatever, because my faith is in my prayers. Abiyah, where we carry on, we keep on soldiering on. But although there have been, I've seen the testimonies of even a South African woman whose autistic child had a vision, like incredible, like some really incredible visions and dreams that people are having. Her autistic child had a dream, a vision that her his adoptive grandfather, he didn't know his name, and it came to him in a vision that it was Solomon. Incredible stuff. And of course this rapture date. So so some of it will be clickbait, but there are a lot of people out there who are having these visions and dreams and things. And I too have had. I want to be very careful how I say this because I don't want to upset my sister, and I'm not I'm not saying that I had that this was because of my sister as such. I'd already fallen out with my sisters, and the enemy has done its work. But when I was with my partner 9 years ago, I had a dream vision that the enemy came to me. The beast was beside my bed, and I couldn't see it, but it licked my face. It was like a beast, and I saw the word Satan as an Santa was an anagram of Satan. That's how I found out that it was an anagram of Satan. And the message, it just said to me that the message was coming to do with my middle sister, and that was it. So the enemy does do that things, and like I said, the enemy got one of his minions to pose as me when I was a little girl to my transgender sister Bronya and her friend. I keep calling her my transgender sister Bronya because she does not want me to call her she, and I cannot do that, and that's the way it is. So, out of respect to her, I say transgender. I want to say something though, because there's an amazing man on YouTube, and I've watched him do a talk. He gets attacked. He's an amazing man. He served in the Royal, was it Marines? Is it Marine? He served for in the Navy or something, and then he did 20 years with the fire brigade. I helped out with uh, Sussex Fire Brigade when I did care work. I did a training thing that did a sort of day thing there, which was fun. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's amazing what he said. I'm jumping all over the place here, but he said every transgender. He said some very. I mean, he said some. I already knew about John Money, the evil psychopath New Zealander, psychopath psychologist who had been beaten by his father as a child and developed this hatred of men as a man, and believed that men should be castrated. And he did this. He encouraged. He was the one who. It's a horrible story. He sexually abused these twin boys, who a circumcision had gone wrong on them, and he used them as part of his agenda, that his lie that a child can be conditioned to believe that they are in the wrong, that they are in the opposite gender. And the long and short of it was that both twins took their own lives, because the twin that wasn't experimented on, um, he still took his own life because they were both sexually abused by this psychopaths, psychiatrists. I mean, there are some real sickos, really, really dangerously sick people, even working for Sussex Partnership and Sussex Police. It's been such an eye opener. I knew that it would be bad, but I didn't know how bad. And that's why I was saying to Marian's friend, I personally believe John Patterson, the South African victim of satanic ritual abuse, and the elderly woman who had been human trafficked. She did actually make me think while I was speaking that she too thought while I was speaking to her about the Italian woman, she said to me, "Do you think maybe she had a flashback?" Because it does seem odd that a woman in their 70s would be filmed having sex, being forced to engage in bestiality. If she's a Jehovah's Witness now, how come she's been human trafficked to Eastbourne from Italy, this ex-prostitute in her 70s? It did seem a little bit odd that the owner of an Eastbourne estate agent is part of a human trafficking ring, filming her forced into bestiality. But it does happen. But Marion did make me think about that. She said, "Do you think maybe she was having a flashback?" I said, "You know what? As I'm saying it, I think you might be right. Perhaps. I don't know." But her tears were real. And I believe these mental health patients. And as I said, I would like to meet Marion for myself, not least because of what she said about Mr. Holden, but because, saying that he has 16 pages of corruption against him, that including sexual harassment, that he married the 74-year-old victim to make it look good, that he'd even tried it on with her years ago, which is interesting. And because she's 86, but no, I'm just really interested, aren't I? So um I would like to meet Marion for myself in the same way that I met John Patterson for myself. I want to know if John Patterson is okay because he's in his 70s. They tried to disappear him, they put him in prison. In the end, they coerced force medicated him in the psychiatric unit against his will. And this is what I mean. You get some of the most intellectual, seriously intellectual people in these places. They can't cope with me because I haven't got the brain capacity to heal, to take in what they're saying. I have to pause what they're saying and go over it again and again and again for it to click because I've got a blip in my brain or whatever you want to call it. And I realised that the psychiatric unit is predominantly has been used for centuries. It's been used for silencing people. They did it to members of the royal family, uh, relatives of the royal family who were saying things, and they say too much. Right, we got to get this person certified. But as I said, I've got to be very careful what I say. I would love to know where Marion is, but obviously, well, it's like what they did to that social worker. They put her in a the woman that um the woman that knew John Alexander Patterson. They put her in a psychiatric unit. They locked her up. And these people, because she was exposing the child abuse and everything, and she was on the ball. I was, pardon me, I was telling Marion's friend that I had leaks from the washing machine. And Darren was like, "Bryony, I don't want to worry you." And I said, "That's it." And I said, "The perfect place you want to go to scream out for help If you want to cry out and look a bit crazy because you are going crazy, there's no better place to do it. At least I was doing it in the right place, outside the psychiatric unit. Ah, help! And I'd never stayed in the psychiatric unit before, but I knew my legs took me down to the DGH. I had I'd had just one night stay in the psychiatric unit, and that's when I was in supported accommodation. But I told her about this was at the time when my mother was still just about still alive, and that social worker landlord was in it for his pension, and I'd had my first. I mean, they didn't do anything. Even I'd never gone up Beachy Head. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't take drugs. I went up Beachy Head suicidal. One night in the police cell, sticking up red wine for Dutch courage, that's what the wine was for. I couldn't tell my mother because she was dying. I was forced to sign a homeless application out of there. And my mother said they're supposed to be helping you. Do you see what I mean? So all of a sudden, all these people are like, well, you got the help. How can a care coordinator that I've never met come up to me in the new hospice? The hospice that my mother died in was knocked down. I went to the new hospice to find the nurses who nursed my mother. This care coordinator comes up to me, gives me her card. You saw Rav the counsellor. It's like, who are you? Ella Williams. you know so it's amazing, it's incredible. And this was before I had a YouTube channel, an amateur YouTube channel. So it goes to show, I find it absolutely fascinating how paranoid people are. But in relation to Eben and Gurmit, Eben knew Darren's friend Eben came back from Nigeria. I'd never met the woman before. I'm in her flat. I was there for 3 months. She walks in. I leave flowers. I fixed her washing machine. Don't worry about it. She knows that Darren was arrested in her flat. I'm trying to get into council to do something for me. They give me a brand new, with new carpets, and they were literally putting down the last squares of carpet in this brand new flat. And I remember thinking, what's the catch here? They they did a botched job on the flat because there was water trickling down the walls. The woman in the flat next to me said that she and her son were in that flat, and she said, I too have had water trickling down the walls. This is a brand new flat, for crying. This was the supported flat at SDR Living. The councils are fleecing everybody. They are committing heinous crimes on us, the people. They are using us as numbers. They are exploiting every single one of us. They're using your mental health, your physical health, everything. Everything is socially engineered. This gentleman, this ex-Royal Navy man who goes round with the having talks on the street about the transgender ideology scam. I was watching his talk. I don't know where it was, but he said every transgender patient is worth over £1 million. So my transgender sister is worth over 1 million. Why? Because of a lifetime of surgeries, all the things that they do to them, they go through, and the knock-on effects that it might have, which I won't go into. But all these detransitioners were teenagers. There are teenagers, people who were teenagers at the time, 12, 13, 14, who regret transitioning. and he's going to be interviewing one of these people. I've seen women talk about the dangers of transitioning, and this is what I want my sister to know about, because this is what terrified me. So I was in tears when I saw her, because I didn't know that she was on crutches. I didn't know. And then all of a sudden, someone who is got their own sickness, their own insecurities. They're jumping on me and my transgender sister who need trauma-based therapy. Both of us need trauma-based therapy. Me and my transgender sister. That person who's got a lot of insecurities in themselves. Right, I'm gonna get her. I don't want to see them love each other. I'm jealous. I'm going to tell the police that Bridie shouted transphobic comments, that when she hugged Bronya, her sister, that she humiliated her. Bollocks. Bronya would have told me to get off her. We disagreed with each other, but she said, I'm going to get a mediator. I've been trying to get a mediator for me and both my sisters since our mother died in 2009. Our relationship has got nothing to do with you. Go and get a life. You'll destroy yourself. You are the one who will end up separated for eternity from our Heavenly Father unless you repent. Unless you repent. So I'm so glad that I have recorded Gurmit, because Gurmit is already paranoid. She's lied. So has Eben. Eben said she got Darren to leave a note for me at my SDR living flat, knowing that Darren had assaulted me and been arrested in her flat. I was keeping away from Darren for a reason, which is why I got Juliet, the now deceased cancer patient support worker, to speak to Eben, who's supposed to be a lawyer and a Christian, who's friends with Gurmit, who's also supposed to be a Christian, to say that I was in a flat keeping away from Darren because of his abuse, because I was hurting. None of the people in that supported living supported me. The council know this. You're all on this Eastbourne Borough Council, and you are all guilty of horrific crimes against humanity. Mr. Holden was going to help me make a subsequent civil claim against you for what you did to me. And now I've had to find another solicitor to help me with this. And Eben put in the note, if you don't come and get your things, I will dispose of them. And I assumed that Eben had watched my YouTube channel, but no, she got Darren to leave the note for me, knowing that Darren had been arrested in her flat. And then she says, I don't know what happened to your things. I put them on the landing. She's a liar, a lawyer and a liar. And she calls herself a Christian. And this is my partner's friend. And you know what? I was crying all the way to Bexhill and back, thinking I've got to kill myself. I had written this note for Marian. It's a few pages long. But then yesterday I ended up speaking to her neighbour and her friend for a few hours in her house about what I've been through. This is in Bexhill. And isn't it ironic that Darren's friend Charlie, who texts me to say that I'm a stupid idiot, and he and Darren did a Bible study together in Wetherspoons when Darren was calling me an idiot because I didn't get a happy birthday from him, and yet I've got a whole bag of gifts for him from last year. I'm homeless in the hotel. I'm the one who's fighting against all of this evil that's been done to me. Yet Charlie, who's texted me to say I'm a stupid idiot for a second time, he's the one who wrote that letter to the House of Commons, which I have a copy of, which I've emailed to the solicitor, about my severe disability, calling himself my friend and advocate. And Charlie had the nerve to say, "Oh, people say that Marian is crazy." I've been in Bexhill Library and they all say she's mad. The library is just around the corner from where Marian's house has been boarded up, and she's now ended up in hospital. She's got a legal background. She's exposed so much corruption. 22,000 of our police officers have got criminal backgrounds, and that's why Eastbourne Police, all these officers that I've mentioned, who've even played my YouTube channel to me whilst beating me, torturing me, it's up to life in prison for their torture and their malfeasance of office by public servants. These people are the worst of the worst. They are scum. And that is why PC Wenham spoke to me on the phone and texted me and said, "I'm sorry for what we've put you through. We're going to drop the case of what we've done to you." You can go back a few videos to see what the police did to me. And I want to say a big thank you to Warrior Wales for, I haven't watched your video yet, but you've shared the video of what the police did to me. This is Warrior Wales, Paul in Wales. Thank you for what you've done. Speaking of Paul, there's another Paul from Wetherspoons. I've got to be very careful what I say. The lady who said the Freemasons came after her, who reckoned that Terry was a Freemason, Terry in the pub, Darren's friend. Well, you can't tell by looking at someone, but I have to be careful because people have got, as I said, people have got their own issues. She's had a problem with Paul. This chap Paul. She said he's been banned from Wetherspoons and he's got a carer. He told me that the police tried to get him in prison for GBH for 17 years. Well, that's quite a hefty sentence. So even though I know that the police are corrupt, it must have been a bit more serious. So if he's been banned from both Wetherspoons in Bexhill and Eastbourne, I have to be careful because he gave me the name of a barrister whose name I won't mention over what the police have done to me, but without wanting to be rude, this chap, I've got to be careful with these men because he's tried it on with this Jasmine, and I just, I don't like being around people at the best of times, let alone, and I don't attract the right people. Yes, I think I've made that clear. I always attract the wrong sorts. I mean, crumbs, if I can get all these trolls and even like a hate card from thousands of miles away. Yes, I've said everything. I'm going to look up the clip of the predictive programming clip from my favourite comedy, One Foot in the Grave, where there's a chap. It's the episode with the gnomes, and the chap says there's a chap talking about it's an episode from 1990, I think, and he's saying about the end of the world, and he's got them all hostage. This guy, they're trying to paint him as, homeless and mentally ill. The kind of people that I've been around in recent years, and Victor is helping out at the homeless place with Christmas dinner. And this chap is talking about the abomination, the end of the world, and as part of the predictive programming, apparently they mention it, the 23rd of September is mentioned, along with all these movie clips of, you know, predictive programming. So I thought that was interesting. So even the BBC can do it. There we go. As I said, I spoke to Doreen Mantle, who played Mrs. Warboys on the tube. I rang Mum up, and Mum was getting a bit annoyed because she was like, "What are you saying?" And I said, I spoke to Mrs. Warboys on the tube. Dave Prowse used to ring me up. I won't go into that, but my mother wasn't happy about it. Dave Prowse played Darth Vader, the biggest character in the biggest movie of all time. I'm more impressed by the fact that Mum did a scene with Sam Neill in Wimbledon, but there we go. Dave Prowse, who played Darth Vader, there's a lot of Illuminati stuff in that, so they've probably put the 23rd of September in that as well. Dave Prowse died some years ago. I think he outlived my mother by a couple of years. But he was about a year older than my mother. I think Dave Prowse would be about 88. But he looked like an old man when he took my phone number when I was 22, over 20 years ago. We're talking about the Green Cross Code Man, which is what he also did. He was also in that horrible Clockwork Orange, which is an Illuminati MK Ultra film. There's a bit where because he was a big guy. He's holding the man. But yeah, Dave Prowse used to ring me up. Yes, he could have tried it on with me like any old man would, but I gave him my number because it's like, oh, it's Darth Vader, why not? Because I've still never even watched Star Wars to this day, so I've never even watched Star Wars even to this day, 20 years after Dave Prowse took my number, although I did actually say to him one time, oh, I've actually got The Empire Strikes Back is on the telly right now, so you're on telly. And I think he parked his car outside Mum's house, and he said he had a sat nav system, and I was like, and I threw myself on the floor, and I was like looking through the window like this. So I saw this old man looking at me from a slightly nice looking car. I thought, is that him? Is that him? I've given him our address. But anyway, there we go. I've gone off on a tangent, but I was going to say, like I said, I'd like to meet this lady, Marian still. Marian, what I was saying about her friend, and I want to say this with caution, with sensitivity. She like as I said, there are a lot of people who have been socially engineered into this new age mind control programming, and they may not realize it, but I won't say it to them, but I know when they have. So Marian's friend, whose house I was in yesterday, she actually phoned and left a voice message for me a little while ago. Very nice, sweet lady. As I said, I also want to say I'm a little bit suspicious that I was not suspicious, but they had a falling out, and she reckons that Marion is not telling the truth about being a lawyer, and she doesn't even know about. Marion didn't want her to know about this YouTube video that I saw of Marion, because she was like, so what is it that you actually want? And I said, well, I saw this YouTube video. She said, well, I don't even think she knows what YouTube is. I don't think Marian's friend knows what YouTube is, because she said, oh, that Marian didn't want her to know anything about it. So they had a falling out. So this is where I have to be wary, because I don't know this lady. I just spent a few hours in her house talking to her. But she was very sweet, and like I said, I've taken her contact. But on the subject of this new age programming, so she's a retired osteopath, and she now does this qigong thing, which is meditation. So when she said to me, we're going round in circles, I just said, as I said, I could, if I had a penny for every time I've heard that phrase, I'd be a rich person. And it's when she said, she also went on to say that thing of, can you leave things in the past? So the going round in circles, can you leave things in the past? Very new age. And what is that other thing they like to say? She said to me, I can't remember now, but yeah, that thing about leaving things in the past. Oh, what is it that you need help with? Now, I'm not saying that everyone that's into New Age meditation, Buddhism, and all that stuff, I'm not saying that they all say these things. We're going round in circles, leave things in the past, and what is it that you need help with? But I'm just saying that my experience of people who are into that sort of thing, they've all used those phrases. And this is the red flag for me, where I have to be careful, is a lot of covert narcissists are drawn to this sort of thing. They like to use these things that invalidate people, because I'm looking for validation. But this lady understands that, but of course I don't know her, because I said to her that I've got a problem with narcissistic abuse. She said, explain to me what narcissistic is. So she doesn't know what narcissistic is. And you know this, I said to her, do you know what? I don't actually know how to put it into words. How do you put into words? I don't actually know how to articulate what narcissism is. But I know everything about the spirit behind it. And that is what has kept me just about hanging in there, because I've been suffering the effects of those phone calls to Darren's friends. Just picking up the phone was hard enough. I was crying my eyes out. But I'm getting how to explain, like mild, those anxiety attacks when you're lying down and you're just trying to breathe. But I'm so consumed by it all. No, the thing is, people just don't survive what I've been through, which is why I can't emphasize enough that being a survivor of narcissistic abuse is the biggest achievement ever. And I said to this lady, I said, I don't know anyone who knows what I've said. I've got no one. I've got no friends or family. I said the fear, because of this attachment to Darren, and maybe there's trauma bonding from Darren and religious abuse from Darren, because without Darren, suddenly I'm in the darkness. Yahweh doesn't exist. They've all abused me. It is call a spade a spade. It is demonic. It's evil. Using the Bible for, his friends using it for emotional manipulation, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm frightened. I'm frightened. It's like feeling like a child again. It's like when I ran into the car park in Florida, and I panicked because I'd lost my mother for a few minutes. I went round the market and I just, the supermarket, and then I've just panicked. Oh, honey, honey, are you okay? I've lost my mummy. Ah! It's this sudden. That's how I'm feeling. Like it's like a stabbing feeling. Frightening, frightening. You know, that these are the effects of covert narcissistic abuse. It's passive aggressive behavior. It's these lovely ladies, or they look lovely on the outside. Come in, come in. I'll give you a cup of tea. I'll help you with meditation. And by the way, I'm not saying that this is what Marion's friend did. She didn't do any of that. But I'm very wary because it only has to take that, and then it happens. And the fact that she's had what she was saying about Marion, which I won't repeat because it's nothing to do with me, it's between her and Marion. She had a bad experience with her, really awful. But and then their friendship just went. And she said, well, anyway, I can't. It would be wrong for me to repeat it. But I want to make up my own mind about someone because I don't know this lady. I've had a lot of people do nasty things. I had that retired headmistress who's done evil. I had a fraudulent Section 184 typed up. Oh, and by the way, Marian has explained what fraud is. No, she wasn't a lawyer. She had a legal background. Marian is a retired forensic fraud investigator. That's it. She wasn't a lawyer. But Marian's friend was telling me that she worked for John Lewis and that she's that none of it's real. Now, like I said, judging on the YouTube video and what I've seen, I just really think this woman is amazing. I'm going to go with my gut instinct. I've never met her, and what this lady said could be true, but I am believing the YouTube video and what Marion has said, and what the very knowledgeable people, journalists who know about corruption that's going on right now everywhere in this country, because I'm a victim of it. So I'm basing things on what I know. I can't go to someone else for answers. I disagree with this lady on the behaviour of that GP, but you know, he may be married, he's on his holiday. If he wants to have a fling, at least he's bit. The only thing I appreciate is the honesty, but it's still inappropriate for a GP to say to a vulnerable woman, you know, he said on the note I could help you. What was he trying to say? So I can only come into his room for a cup of tea if I kiss and cuddle him and do something else. Eh? No, he's a GP, he's a general practitioner. I disagree. I'm actually a little bit surprised that she didn't agree with me on that. Um, I thought it was interesting that at one point during our conversation, she said, "Are you a Scorpio?" Because when I was into astrology, as my mother said, Bryony was the person to go to for astrology. Now, I've renounced all of that in the name of Abiyahwa, but astrology is real. It's evil though, because witches and warlocks have messed about with it. Darren's friend is right about that because he used to be into astrology and all these other things and pagan stuff. And Darren and I can see just by looking at his eyes that he'd been into Patrick, that he'd been into dark stuff. But he too was in the same place as me. I've come out of astrology. Um, I only came out of these things when Darren came along. Otherwise, I would have just kept buying pagan crap, and I'd probably be having a sex change myself and be doing what my sister is doing, because we were into crystals, everything. Um, my biological grandmother on my mother's side, I met them in South Africa. She could read tea leaves, and she saw that this woman was going to have a baby boy and that it would die, and it happened. And it terrified her. That's why she stopped doing reading tea leaves after that. Because it sounds like a load of old nonsense, reading tea leaves. Oh, it's just a bit of fun. It's just a bit of nonsense. It's not. If you don't know really what you're getting yourself into and the spirit behind it, and something is revealed to you and then it happens, you see that someone's going to have a baby boy, that it will die. The person that you're doing this reading to, that it happens to them, she was shaken up by it. This is my late mother's mother, a biological mother. And I had that gift, or should I say curse, because it's not a gift, of astrology, and it is real. This lady, Marian's friend, she said, "Are you a Scorpio?" I said, "Well, no, but I know everything about Scorpio. The Freemason who shoved his tongue in my mouth, he was a Scorpio. And a man was a Scorpio. I mean, my mother's best friend is a Scorpio, and she's in poor health. But I also know not just about, you know, we're the most compatible signs in the zodiac. She said, "Oh, well, I'm a Scorpio." I said, "Oh, well, there you go." I said, "Well, Darren and I are water signs, and we're the most compatible. Uh, Darren's on the cusp, and two other of my boyfriends were on the cusp, and I'm very close to the cusp. Um, the cusp is like, I'm very close to the Aries cusp. So, like the Freemason and Robert said to me, they both knew that I was close to the cusp, because they said, "Oh, you got some Aries in you." I said, "Yeah." It's like my godmother's birthday is the 22nd of February, which is the Aquarius Pisces cusp. She gave me a Pisces picture when I was a child. Now she shares a birthday with Drew Barrymore. So Drew Barrymore, you know, technically speaking, she's Pisces, I'm Pisces, but she's like my godmother on the Aquarius cusp, and I'm close to the Aries cusp, which officially begins on the 19th of March, which is still officially Pisces. But anyway, like I said, Abby Yahweh, forgive me. I'm only explaining this for the purposes of anyone who's watching this, and you know, for the purposes of the video. But what I'm trying to say is, I've come out of all of that. But the spirit of astrology, its spirit is there, but I didn't allow it to be there. So when I was speaking to this lady, Marion's friend, I didn't allow myself to acknowledge the spirit of, because the enemy wants to pull me back in. Come on, Bryony, come back in. And it ain't happening. It never will. So even though I've had thoughts about, literally thoughts about going up to Beachy Head and walking off the cliffs and saying, right, that's it, I can't cope with this, people are abusing me, because Eben had my valuables. Well, I say valuables, I don't know if, for all I know, it's the thought that I could have some valuables in the things that she's got rid of. I could have some SD cards, right? They're my things, right? And so what has prompted these suicidal feelings, which I have not disclosed to this lady, Marion's friend, you know, I am actively suicidal. I've been crying a lot, and as I said, it's all because of Darren's Christian friends who are supposed to have looked after my things, and they know what he's been like, and it is like being killed all the time. No, nobody knows what people can profess anything they like. Listening is a skill. People are in their own bubbles. They're conditioned, they're programmed. A lot of people don't even know they're programmed. So this is why I want to touch on these things as sensitively as I can, because there are so many people who are conditioned into programmed they just don't know. So on that note, I've got this lady's email address, I've got her mobile number. She doesn't know about the YouTube video. I really would like to meet Marian, but if she's been hospitalised, I don't want to use the word. I'm going to just finish by reading this article from the Argus, because it's nasty. It is criminal and nasty what this person has done, but it's, dare I say, humorous in the sense that it just goes to show, you know, Mr. Holden, if he's going to carry on behaving the way he does, because I'm guessing he's done a lot to upset people. When you look at his reviews, the fact that I believe Marion saying he's got 16 pages of corruption against him. He married a 74-year-old victim of his sexual harassment to make it look good. And this article, he's learnt nothing from it. He abused me. He left me in tears. It was just horrific. It was just truly horrific. I couldn't really, I didn't really say a whole lot. I spent 5 hours with Marion's friend, but I didn't really explain all of it. So, but I do need, when you need help with domestic abuse, you need help with domestic abuse. Controlling behaviour. I kept telling my partner, but he won't listen. He won't. People don't. I mean, well, my partner does listen. He does. You know, we listen to each other. We wouldn't be together otherwise. We come up for air, but I don't think his friends are close friends, because I think I wanted to believe that we're together because we're so similar, because he's had problems with Charlie, he said. But no, and anyway, this is where it gets emotionally difficult. And I need help. So when someone says, well, what does that help look like? What do you want help with? I started with the clutter problem. I just like you know, Richard Pryor, as Darren said, Richard Pryor said, just being human is hard enough. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the, no, that's the Gazette, the Argus. So this is about Mr. Holden, this horrible solicitor, because I can't ring up Mr. Holden's office. I can't speak to this man. He's an abusive man. I've just read a second appalling review for Mr. Holden. Let me just see if any more poor reviews have been added. Just to check. Um, Bird Eye. These are the worst reviews, I think, apart from Yale.com. Holden and Co. 3 days ago, someone added a poor review, very rude, wrote to them twice, not had received any reply. A month ago, very shocked at the level of rudeness and dismissiveness of my inquiry, awful. And then you get a few more appalling reviews, and Yale.com have the worst reviews of him. He's going to get one from me, don't worry. But in the meantime, I've got to try and get the file to send to this new solicitor. Man accused of flinging fish guts round office of top Sussex solicitor. Oh, this was 20th of November 2013. A warrant has been issued for the arrest of a man accused of throwing fish guts around the offices of a top Sussex solicitor. Christopher Fagg is accused of harassing Jolyon Holden, i.e. Joe Holden, over the course of 3 years. On one occasion, it is alleged he flung fish entrails and sour milk, and I shouldn't laugh, around Mr. Holden's offices, Holden and Co. solicitors, in Robertson Street, Hastings. That's where he had his large office. He's now in such a tiny office. I was telling Marion's friend that he won't even, as a client, it's a bit strange that he hasn't got room for a client. He sat me under the stairs, uh, outside someone's flat, under the stairs. So you're like this under the stairs. So he used to have a bigger office, and now it's a tiny office. Mr. Holden runs chains of solicitors across Sussex and Kent, including in Brighton. Fag 56 of Regland Rise, St Leonard's, was due in Crawley Magistrates Court today to enter pleas to 3 counts. He is charged on August 22nd with harassment. The specifics of this offence are: for approximately 3 years, you have regularly called and visited the office of Holden and Co. solicitors, and then in August 2013, you began to attend the offices, leaving notes on the window and shouting outside the offices. On August 22nd, you then attended the offices and committed criminal damage by throwing fish entrails and sour milk on the carpet. On August 23rd, you attended the offices and poured a brown substance over the front windows of the offices. On the 28th of August, you sent an abusive letter to Jolyon Holden, and on September 11th, after being released and bailed for this harassment, you left a threatening message on the answer phone of the offices. He's also accused of criminal damage on the 22nd of August. It is alleged he damaged the doormat and floor of the offices of Holden and Co. solicitors. He did not turn up for court, and magistrates issued a warrant. So there you go. I mean, well, it just makes you wonder, did he upset this vile person? But he hasn't learned, though. I mean, no, I'm not. I've got to be very careful how I say this. I'm not trying to say that, you know, it just, in my mind, it makes me wonder, was this person treated very badly as a client, and did it make him go loopy and do something evil? I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is, if it's true what Marian said in that YouTube video, that Mr. Holden's got 16 pages of corruption against him, including sexual harassment, that he married the 74-year-old victim to make it look good, that he even tried it on with her years ago, but he didn't remember her. Is it a surprise? The man left me in tears 3 times. He lied to the Solicitors Regulation Authority, saying I didn't instruct him. He was shouting down the phone, I don't care if the Prime Minister is phoning me. I ring back, go away, I'm crying my eyes out. 3 times the MP caseworker mediated with him and said he'll still see you, and he didn't. And then the MP caseworker didn't get back to me for 3 months. I am still homeless illegally, and Eastbourne Borough Council are not acting for me by law. I am illegally homeless. The landlady was told on the 8th of August last year by District Judge Harper that she could be sent to prison. He said, go to Mr. Holden to get the committal papers. I still have the email he sent me saying that he has got a legal aid certificate to commit the landlady to prison and to seek damages. And now I've been left with all of this hard work on my own. Praise Yahweh, because I would not have the strength to do this by myself. So, yeah. So I've been looking out for more appalling reviews, and like I said, one was added a few days ago. They all say, oh, he's the rudest man, you'll need 6 years to get over the trauma of dealing with him. He lied saying I didn't instruct him when he was hanging up on me. He's demented. So, but if an experienced solicitor can do... Oh yes, I also read about the tribunal case. He changed someone's contract a few years ago. He changed someone's contract 4 days before they started work. And that person had to go to a tribunal, this trainee solicitor. They changed the clause. He changed the clause in the contract. Apparently it hadn't. They also didn't pay a solicitor who was sacked for gross misconduct, and that person had already resigned. So, but Mr. Holden won the case because that person was sacked for gross misconduct. So, but it'd be very interesting if you could. I'd love to know how. I suppose if you've got a legal background, you know how to do the research into people's backgrounds. Marian obviously does. How she got all that information, I don't know. 16 pages of corruption. I mean, how did she, know that he married the 74-year-old victim? How do people know this stuff? How do they go into the backgrounds of people? I mean, I really find it, obviously I find it traumatic, but I find it very bizarre that as an amateur YouTuber who's just been talking, and how someone that I don't know can find out these horrific things that have happened to me. Yes, I was publicly libelled. I was attacked in council. Well, of course, the landlady was friends with the property managers who were corrupt. So, but it's all the other stuff. It's all of that, isn't it? It's that gossipy thing. Like I said, I don't know Marion's friend. I only spoke to her for 5 hours. Like I said, I'd still like to meet her. I really, really would. Anyway, it's coming up to 2 hours of just talking. I'm shattered. I've been emotionally and physically, and I do not want to go back to how I was at the Strand Hotel, 5 months self-funding, being abused by the people, the thug on the desk, that malicious communications letter that the police have only just taken an interest in. Just dealing with clowns everywhere. Clowns. No one knows their arse from their elbow, and no one will ever know. I could talk forever on this YouTube channel. I could spend endless hours talking to people, and they will still never ever know what I'm suffering. So never ever proclaim to know what someone's going through. Anyway, that's that. So I've talked about predictive programming, how every transgender patient is worth over $1 million. Worth over $1 million. My sister, they experimented on her because she's worth over $1 million to the billion-dollar industry of pharmaceuticals. Remember what Schnoobly, Darren and I call him Schnoobly. Bill, remember what Bill Schnoblum said? Who's exposed everything. The Freemate, he came out of, he was of an elite level. He knew he was into everything until he got saved by Yeshua. And you know, he was the one who said pharmakos is the Greek word. Pharmakos to do with witchcraft in the drugs. I've forgotten what was the what's the Greek word for let me just look it up. Pharmakos. It's a Greek word, but it's to do with the witchcraft. Just have a look. Pharmakos. 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 Sacrifice rituals and cults, Britannica. The Pharmakos was a human embodiment of evil who was expelled from the Greek city at the moments of crisis and disaster. Oldest magic for blame and relief. Ancient Greek scope. Goat. Yeah, so because obviously pharmakos. Anyway, it's the word farmer, big farmer. Yeah, so just look up pharmakos. That's the origins of it. It's not really explaining it, but there we go. Big pharma. Yes, using people like my sister, transgender people, are worth over $1 million for a lifetime of. Anyway, well done. Thank you to that wonderful gentleman who goes up and down the country, particularly up north. He needs to come down here and do it, really. Well, he was attacked by Antifa in Brighton. Those criminal thugs, those terrorists. Anyway, there we go. Shalom Yahweh.